It's time now for the news review segment where we get to have a conversation and bring perspectives to various topical issues that are dominating the news cycle. This morning I have with me Michael Kosi Dede. He is an engineer and he's a regular guest or panelist on the show. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good to have you.
Good to have you too.
Right.
I have a complaint about the birthday celebration.
Last week. Very well. Fine.
Why you refuse to share the cake?
No, it's a month-long celebration, so I'm sure your cake will come. But this year, today, over 600,000 candidates are sitting for the Basic Education Certificate Examination, BECE. We're wishing them well. However, it is not without concerns, as we have seen over the years, issues of malpractices and, of course, results being withheld and all. Let's have a brief comment on this particular issue regarding the BECE and, of course, our candidates who are sitting for the exam. Okay.
Well, I wish the candidates the best of luck. But more importantly, I think we also need to be looking at our education system as a whole, because leakages have become an annual event. Until date, no one at WAEC or anywhere has been found culpable. And that is worrying. Because anyone in Ghana today who can afford it will not let their child or children go and write BECE. They'll write O-levels.
Okay.
And they'll write A-levels.
Okay.
I mean, let's be sincere. Anyone who can afford it in Ghana today will not go through the BECE system. They will send their children for O-level and A-level systems.
Why? What's the comparison between them?
Why? Because everybody clearly is seeing that there's something not right with the BECE system that we claim we are following. One, what was the basis for the junior secondary school? Let's go back to the 1990s. What did the government say? The government said that the O-level and A-level system was geared only towards theory. And that they were going to bring in a new education system which would ensure that children will be able to identify their skills early in life. If it was woodwork, if it was metal work, if it was cooking, if it were things like that, skills, children will be able to pick up their talents early enough and then branch off into their areas of specialty so that they could create jobs for themselves rather than waiting for employment. So those were the reasons behind the current system that we have. Now let's look at it 20, 30 years on and ask ourselves where we are. Are the children acquiring practical skills? Are they being taught woodwork? Are they being taught metal work? Are they being taught all these things in the junior secondary school? No. Because since we supplied the first toolboxes, which are even carpentry, in 1990, let's go around all the schools and ask ourselves, how many more toolboxes have been supplied since? Are the children doing any practical thing, or they are drawing the hacksaws, they are drawing the planes and issues like that? These are the things that we need to honestly discuss as a nation, rather than simply continue this process and be taunting ourselves on the shoulder and say, oh, we are doing well, where so many children have passed and issues like that. Because then what was the difference? What did we seek to change by bringing on this system?
Exactly.
We have not clearly spent time to have that discussion. But quickly somebody says, now we are doing STEM, we are doing this, we are doing... We are moving on without taking cognizance of what have we achieved with this new system. It seems that leakage has become a normal business and no one seems worried about it. Students become the victims because their results are withheld. Apart from the in-house malpractices of copying and things like that that go on in there. The leakage itself is the main concern for me, because it doesn't tell our students or our children that we are concerned about bad behavior. And it is not just what we teach them in class, but it is what we teach them by our actions that we should also be thinking about. For instance, in this whole idea of the double track that's gone on, and issues like even the SS at the SSS level,
the WASI level,
the WASI level, you realize there was so much lack of planning involved in the process that you ask yourself, what are we subtly telling our children? That in life there's no need to plan, that we can do anything as we go along. For me, those are important messages that we are sending to the children of the future that doesn't augur well for us as a nation. Because training should be comprehensive. It shouldn't just be about literacy that we are teaching them in class, but it should encompass everything else about how they must lead their lives in the future. So for me, these are things that we need to sit down dispassionately and talk about as a country. Rather than this idea that, oh, we have passed so many children, so many have passed the exams and issues. I think we need to have a serious discussion on whether the education that we are offering our children is really worth it. One, I keep making this example that has it really been successful? If no, what do we need to do? So for me, these are honest discussions we need to have about the education system that we have now, rather than keep adding on to it and changing, because even now we are talking about the curriculum for BECE. I mean, today we have changed it, tomorrow we say hold on. I mean, what is it? I mean, these are not things we toy with, because we are talking about the future of the nation. And it is sad that governments, politicians seem to play with this. And I keep saying, they have checked out of the system. They have checked out of the system. They send their children to international schools and ask them to write O-level and A-level. And then they think that everybody else who can't should stay in that system. And they keep toying with the system and not making any concrete efforts to ensure that it is of value to the nation as a whole. And bringing the whole nation down, for me, that is the worry. And I think that it is not fair to the people of this country. We need to seriously have a discussion on it.
Very well. Thank you, Engineer. Let me say good morning to campaign spokesperson for Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia in the 2024 general elections, Dennis Miracles Abuaji. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good to have you.
Good to see you again.
Hamza is here. Hamza Suhini, a member of the NDC's communications team. I always give you spokesperson. I'm wondering spokesperson for. Good morning, Hamza. Good to see you as well. Good to see you as well.
Good morning to my colleagues in the state.
Right. Oh, the BECE started about 600,000 candidates this morning will take part of that exam. What are we saying to the candidates, WAEC, the vigilators, the supervisors, and all?
Good morning to our cherished viewers, Nana. We can, at this stage, only wish them the very best as far as the exam is concerned, and also hope and pray that they are given the needed assistance to go through the exams peacefully and without any major incidents that likely can threaten the integrity of the process. And when I say the integrity of the process, it has to do with their ability to stay true to the regulations governing the conduct of the exams and ensure that they don't cheat through the process. But you see, Nana, we've all been through that stage of educational development. And I realized that the education minister, since Saturday, has been moving from basic education, no, I should say maybe junior high school to another. Especially, I think last night, cameras caught him around the Bono region, where he was trying to assess the preparedness of the educational establishments as far as the exam is concerned. And one thing stood out: the deplorable nature of our educational infrastructure, especially at the basic level. I simply could not believe the pictures that I saw. The terrible infrastructure that we are subjecting people who will call future leaders of our country to. And I'm told that even the education minister, the Honorable Haruna Idrisi himself, was shocked at the level of deploration, at the level of deterioration characterizing many of these infrastructures that he visited. And knowing him, I'm quite convinced that it will occupy his thought once more. Maybe we have gotten to a stage where government should consider renovating at least many of these institutions.
There are over 5,400 schools under trees.
Yes. And even before you move to the issue of resolving schools under trees, it is important for us to demonstrate commitment by renovating those that are existing.
Right.
And so I want to see commitment on the part of the Minister of Education, which I don't doubt, because knowing him, he is a man who is always interested in leaving a legacy. So I'm pretty much convinced that the Honorable Haruna Idrisi will do the needful. Hopefully by next year, if our budget will make room for that, we must consider the possibility of renovating many of these schools, because look, it doesn't speak well of our nation. I simply could not believe that these were institutions within areas like Bono region.
Yeah.
Because many of us from the north, unfortunately, we should not be the norm, but we are used to it growing up. We sat and studied under deplorable conditions. Conditions that we shouldn't be proud of as a nation. But we thought that many of these things could be found only in the northern sector. But to see many of these things, even in Greater Accra, the nation's capital, is clearly unacceptable. So we must have a holistic plan to develop or more or less make these institutions fit for human habitation. Look, I have been a teacher before. I've had the privilege of teaching in Yendi, Presby Primary and the likes. Even those days, our infrastructure wasn't the best. So one would be hoping that as we develop as a country, many of these things will become better, but that unfortunately is not the case. Such surroundings, we may not know, has serious psychological impact even on the minds of our students and their ability to compete effectively with other well-established schools within these vicinities. Because whichever way you look at it, undoubtedly there are better private schools within these catchment areas. So even before you walk into the exam hall, your mind tells you that Mr. A's child is going to perform better than you because even his school is far, far nicer and more attractive than the government school that you are attending. So there's the need for us to work on these things. We should not be exposing our future leaders to these kinds of memories that they would have to grow out with. I think the time has come for government to take it seriously. And not just this government, I think that even future governments must prioritize basic education and put in the needed resources to at least make it attractive to many of our compatriots out there.
Very well. Thank you, Hamza. Dennis, BECE starts today. How have we prepared our candidates for the exam? And of course, ultimately, we expect them to be able to compete and even compete at the international level. Are we there?
I've heard engineering council, but before I come to that, I saw this very interesting article from Akosi Amenu.
Kosi's love letter to
to the vice president. And yesterday I saw the vice president. Honestly speaking, I was excited. She's looking really, 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 healthy and strong and vibrant. Please, she should check on the Chief Justice for us.
Okay.
She should check on the Chief Justice for us.
Okay.
Which Chief Justice?
Our Chief Justice. We have only one Chief Justice in Ghana.
Paul Bafobone?
No, he's an acting Chief Justice. There's a Chief Justice.
No, there's
You've already written off. You've already written off.
No, there's a suspended Chief
Justice. On suspension.
And then there's an acting Chief Justice. You're now qualifying it.
Yes, there's a suspended Chief
Justice. Well, I know of only one sworn into office Chief Justice.
Suspended.
Suspended.
And I think that as a female advocate, the vice president should check on her.
Very well.
And I like Akosi Amenu, the way she put it, from scrutiny to siege. The woman needs all the support that she needs. The prejudices around, you see the way council came in, they're all prejudiced, they premeditated, it's too much. And she can count on the support.
Wish our students well.
Dennis, thank you. But
why?
Start on the political note. Wish them well.
How is it political when you're asking another mother to check on a sister? How?
Thank you.
I'm asking a mother or let me say a sister to check on a sister.
Thank you. Let's check on
the candidate. Just a reminder. Akosi Amenu is reminding her. That's all. But I mean, let's come back to the BECE. So, I was listening to engineer. And I listened to council. I am completely aligned. To be very honest, I have been an advocate against our educational system. Content, context, curriculum, structure. I think it's outmoded.
What would you rather see happen?
A lot of things. From infrastructure to even how we study to even the rules. They are stifling. The environment, everything happening around education is very poor. To be very honest with you. And when you listen to engineers' point and listen to council's point, it is everything we have to change. Curriculum-wise, go and look at the Cambridge students. When they are writing the equivalent of BECE, which they call checkpoint, it's 3 subjects: English, Maths, and Science. Why are we still? I remember I wrote 9. Before 9, it was 12. Subjects.
At the
12 subjects.
And
if you recall, we used to write 2 papers, 2 subjects a day.
Yes.
How do you expect these young kids for us to go and say that write mathematics in the morning, go and come and write science in the
afternoon. Yeah.
You understand? It's like, why are we even writing everything in 1 week? Why must we write everything in 1 week? Like, why?
And that's another important point. Why 1 week?
Why? Is there any rule that says that the children should write everything in 1 week? You know, I think that in Ghana, we have a challenge. Maybe it's a cultural challenge. We change. So there are so many things we've carried on from the past that we are living with, and nobody has even analyzed to even calibrate and find out whether it is still relevant and why we do it. Sometimes we don't even know why we do it.
Because there's no assessment after.
Yes, we don't even know why we do it. You understand? See, the Cambridge kids, they do all other things. But when they are going to do an assessment, they are going to do assessment on 3. And trust me, when you put the Cambridge curriculum students and you put the GES curriculum students, it's not about economic class. It's about content. The level of appreciation and understanding of life is different. The Cambridge kids understand and appreciate issues way better than the GES kids. And then, guess what? GES is even much more difficult than the Cambridge one. GES has all the rules. Don't bring phone. Don't use tablet. You can't type the answer. You can't type your assessment on laptop. You can't do this. You can't. Can you believe that even teachers in some schools, I don't know whether it's changed, but barely about a year ago, were fighting that they are allowed to do their lesson notes, type their lesson notes. You recall?
Yes.
Because that was a fight. That they said they should use pen
and write it in a notebook.
So it's all school. You know, don't use a phone. Don't bring this. Don't do this. I mean, those are all old school. Have you seen the teacher training colleges, how they are trained? Even them. When you go and see how they are trained, you'll be shocked. And that's why I think when the teachers also come out, they also want to use the same stringent rules on the kids. Because, I mean, what is this? What is this? You wake up in the morning, 4 or 5 a.m., and then you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, you're supposed to do this. And it's like, and then when they see the Cambridge students, they accuse them of having too much leeway. They call them that, but as for them, I must say it's not true. They are the ones who are completing and programming and doing the coding and doing all these things. And then we, the GES ones, we use all our brains to be doing
No. You're stressing the brain.
Yes. I'm telling you, and it's real. It's real. They are doing creative art at age 1. Yes, it's for carrying load. You know, they are doing year 1. They are doing creative arts in year 1. And do you know the kind of things they are doing? In the morning, when they are going to school, they are supposed to look for the assignment they did last night, which is to develop some 3D mask, to draw some tree, to identify some plants and stick them in a you know, something. Identify their names, and they give them applications, apps. Use your app to identify the plant and describe it the way you understand it. They are doing global perspective. Year 1, global perspective. That's the name of the subject. Global perspective. You know what I'm saying? And so many other interesting, you know, programs and courses. Recently, I was looking at one of them so those who have written checkpoints have gotten to secondary school, and I was trying to compare the content of their secondary school courses and that of the GES, and I was laughing. You know why? Because when you pick the way they select their courses, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 6 or 7 blocks.
Okay.
Then they give you a mix of the courses to pick. So you can have chemistry and geography in one block. You must pick one from there. Then you can have arts, literature, and physics.
Okay.
Then you can have business, economics, and arts. You know, so it's mixed like that. So there is a student doing Cambridge Secondary School who is doing chemistry, art, math, business, geography, literature. So this student is doing biology.
Right.
She can be a business person after leaving school because she's doing economics, business. And then she can be a science student because she's doing chemistry, physics, biology.
Right.
And that's how they are picking their courses in secondary school. But in GES, when I went to secondary school, and I'll tell you my story, they said I should go to Art 1. So they gave me CRS. Oh, a concept book. They gave me CRS, Christian Religious Studies. The one that our textbook is the Bible. Then they gave me literature and gave me French. Then I said, I want to do government. I wanted to add government because I loved it. Like, I want to argue, I want to. But he said, no, you are in Art 1. You can't do government. So I was stuck. So I had to go and see. I remember those. I had to go and see the government teacher, Mr. Debra. May he so rest in peace. As I said, I want to do government. Is there a way you can accommodate me so that when it's time for me to write the exam, I write? Because that time I thought that for me to be able to come and do political science, I need to study government. That was my understanding. Right. And I was worried about the fact that I was reading CRS.
So it has no relationship with political science.
But I was restricted. And then when you go to the science students also, once you're doing biology, chemistry, elective maths,
and physics,
you can't do any other thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
You get it. But the flexibility that these students in the Cambridge curriculum have, we don't have.
We don't have that.
From year 1 all the way to secondary school. And they're doing computer science. They're doing computer science. That's also an optional that they are supposed to pick. I think that's even a core subject.
It's a core subject when it goes, yes, computer
You get what I'm saying? So I think that it's time for us to break everything down. We should dismantle this whole curriculum and make it a bit more friendly. And also change our infrastructure. Why do we still build all our basic schools in that U or L shape? Why? Like, what? Is there a rule that says that it should be like that? And then when we finish, we paint the bottom brown and paint the top yellow. Like, is there something that, what the cost? The cost is almost the same. You understand?
Yeah.
I have a lot of confidence in Honorable Haruna Iddrisu. I mean, believe me, if there is anybody in government whose confidence level is high in both political parties, it's Honorable Haruna Iddrisu.
Right.
I have a lot of confidence in him. I think the ministry already started a program to modernize our infrastructure.
Yes.
They've started. I'm sure he will continue.
Very well.
And then eventually it would. And then they should bring some flexibility.
Yeah.
They should allow students to at least every Friday, those who have tablets, those who have, to bring their laptops and come and work. Why? What is wrong with that? This morning, the Cambridge kids who are going to compete with the GES, they have their laptops in their bags.
Yeah, true.
It's in their bags. They are going with it, and they are doing amazing things. They are using DeepSeek. They are using ChatGPT. There's nothing wrong in using DeepSeek. I saw an artwork recently about some American math teachers, I think in the 70s or so, demonstrating. Why? Because that was the time they were asking junior high students to use calculator. And the math teachers at that time were protesting that no,
they shouldn't be allowed.
They shouldn't be allowed. They will be lazy.
Yeah.
Today, we've moved on from that, and the kids are using ChatGPT and DeepSeek.
Yeah.
What is wrong with the fact that you give me an assignment and I can go and read? Isn't ChatGPT and DeepSeek the same as the notes that I may have written? That I have to
the
read.
disadvantage the current system poses. There are some students in the public schools who are going to compete with these students, but have not even seen a computer.
But that's what all of us have gone through.
That's what we've gone through.
That's what all of us have gone through.
The ICT teacher will come and draw the thing.
Yes, but that's what we have all gone through.
So
I remember
the keyboard, the mouse, everything you have to
Mr. Comey, school, Mr. Comey, even the computer that we learnt in secondary school, MS-DOS, he beat all of us. Everybody was beat MS-DOS. That was the entire thing I learned. Yeah, that's a CD dot. You know, DR/. MS-DOS. He's beating you. He's doing this. We have to change.
Yeah, we need to.
You know, we have to change, break it down, introduce modern courses.
Yeah.
The kids should be reading about a certain Donald Trump, a certain China, what trade tariffs are, what's happening in the world. Those are the things we should be learning and writing exams on in BECE.
Nana, you see, just to add to what he's saying about the content of the curricula, I agree with him, especially at the senior high school level.
Yeah.
Look, there's the need for us to re-engineer the way we do the parent. Look, when was that? I think about a week or two ago, I was having an interaction with my daughter. 3 years, level 3 rather, I should say.
Year 3.
And I simply could not believe the kind of things she had at her when her fingertips.
Yeah.
Because even when I was in JSS, there was no way I could have had that knowledge.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But at the point I was like, look, maybe these systems are making the students actually lazy. That's what I thought initially. But when I started engaging her, I was like, no.
Yeah.
Something is wrong, and there's the need for us to begin to have that discourse.
Need to change.
And you see, when I was in senior high school, I had the same experience that he had, because I was also given as A. Then in Ghana school, we used to call it as A and B. I was given as A. I was given history. What's the name? Literature. In fact, I was not even given literature. I was given history, geography, elective maths, and something like that. Economics. 4. and I was passionate about government. I did everything for them to consider me for government. They said, no, since you are in AS A,
You can't do it.
you can't do AS B. You can't go to AS B and do government.
It's fixed.
But some way, somehow, I managed
To get it done.
to get it done because
That's what you
I
wanted to do.
fictitiously registered myself to sit
Very
in for the government
Very
exam.
Very
So there's the need for us to have these kind of conversations. I think that the time has come for us to actually realign the course content. Like he indicated, even the training college level, when we were in school, you simply couldn't believe the kind of things we're taking through.
Even now.
Yes, even now, to go and teach. And you ask yourself even the relevance of many of the things that were being taught, even at the training college level. You are going to handle kids. You are actually not even taught about the emotional disposition of many of these children. There is no course content that deals with that. So you don't know what to expect, except when you go out there and you are made a mentee under somebody, a teacher who is out there, then you now begin to learn.
You probably will learn the attitude of the teacher.
Exactly, not even the student.
Depending on what the teacher is, you become him.
You understand the point.
Yeah.
So that we do not prioritize the interests or the developmental orientations of these kids that we are going out there to teach. And many of these courses, like he indicated, even at the training college, I'm not reborn. The time has come for us to let it go. And the most annoying of it all is the lesson notes he spoke about. This is a country that is developing. And yet still, our circuit supervisors want us to write lesson notes on a note 3 book.
Yeah, full scarf.
Full scarf note 3. You understand? They are unwilling to go digital. And many of them, you can't blame them because they themselves didn't have that exposure.
Yeah.
So you see, there's a conflict of development. There are many of us who are exposed to the digital world and we want to operationalize it. And many of our seniors at the top, they are fighting against the system because they were not part of that revolution, or they have not been part of that revolution, and they are unwilling to, or even if they are willing, there's no avenue for them to develop their skills in that sector.
Very well.
So there's a need for us to have a holistic view of the educational. I think that the time has come for us to have a meaningful dialogue, and we can start it at the basic level. When we make meaningful changes, then we can proceed to the senior high school level, then so on. We must not try to do it.
Even the universities also have problems.
As for the
University of Ghana, let's see the courses they are doing.
We'll get there. Today we have a number of topics, and so we need to maximize our time. One, there's a looming crisis on our hands in the health sector because the strike by the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association is really biting, and the health system is really under the impact. Yesterday, we spoke to the mortuary workers, and they are telling us that they are beginning to record an increase in intake of dead bodies. The meeting between the ministry and the association, inconclusive, if you ask me. Yesterday, we heard the health minister address the press and ask retiree nurses to volunteer. Engineer, let me start from you. If we do not intervene and address the situation now,
I find sometimes the way our politicians seek to address problems baffles me. One, there are people who have been gotten into the public sector or civil service, and over 1 year, they are being told that their salaries or the Ministry of Finance has not gotten their names into the system, so they are not being paid. You have an issue ongoing, and your next response is that retiree nurses should come and take charge. When is their salary going to volunteer? When are they going to be processed? I mean, let's be sincere with ourselves. Because if he falls sick today, he will be flown out of this country. Let's deal with issues properly. When he came into office, this was an issue already on the table. He was going around fighting with chief executives in this country of hospitals. Instead of sitting down and say, hey, this is an issue that we need to possibly look at. How do we resolve it? You've waited until the people have gone on strike, and then you now come and tell them retirees should come and take over, should volunteer. How is that possible?
there is a crisis, so they need help.
But
so they're asking for help from
you think the retirees will come? I mean, let's get real. Let's get real. I mean, somebody is going on retirement. Do you think they should now come? No, it's not going to happen. You don't even have the data. Do they have the data on them? Nobody is going to come in anywhere. So let's be serious in addressing the problem. One, I'm concerned because I've heard government say that, if we implement their system, it's going to add another 2 billion or something onto the payroll or whatever. But I'm asking myself, these issues, the issues were agreed fundamentally, if what is out there is true, in May 2024.
Yeah.
So, in putting together a budget, why didn't we include them in that budget? There was a court case until January. No problem about that. But the ministry exists over a change of government. There exists. The records are there.
Yeah.
We have chief directors. We have public sector workers who are there, who have the institutional memory. And preparing a budget is not the minister who leads the process. The chief director and the technocrats in the ministries are the people who prepare the budget. So this information was available. Unless somebody said, take it out. So for the government to tell me today that, oh, it wasn't budgeted for, it's irresponsible talk. It's clearly irresponsible talk. This should have been budgeted for. Because yes, there was a court case, but look, this was agreed substantively. So let's put it on the budget. When the court case gets resolved, we can then begin to implement it. So for me, it is clear irresponsibility that if it was not included in the budget, but if it is an excuse being used, that is another matter. But other than that, we should go back to the chief director and say, what were their inputs into the budget? I mean, we need to begin to ask people serious questions because they are being paid for a certain purpose. So if they have not included, we should be asking them, why did they not include it in the budget? We shouldn't run away from this issue.
Right.
Now, if we behave as though, again, that, oh, once the government has changed over, then the minister says, oh, I didn't know about this, come and let's start the process all over again. Again, that is irresponsibility.
Right.
Because government is continuous. So we should act properly. Other than that, tomorrow when a candle is not there and another person, so I've just come into office, so now let's talk. I mean, that is clearly not acceptable. The Labour Commission itself in its conduct, the nurses accused them that within a certain number of days you are supposed to act on certain things. You didn't act. And yet you have gone to court to say our strike is illegal. I mean, we should begin to question the labour officers because in all these last few years, every time workers go on strike, they only come out and say it's illegal. How have they held the employer accountable in all of this? How has the Labour Commission held the employer accountable in all of this? So it shouldn't be a one-sided issue because we are clearly creating a situation where there's complete distrust between government and employees. And it looks as though it is only a certain group of people who benefit. But the employees who are working don't seem to be benefiting. And anytime we come and say, oh no, hold on, I've just come into office, let's do this. And then they go out populist, trying to make the employees look unpopular. And say, look, you are not being fair to us. We are a new government. That is irresponsible talk.
Right.
Clearly. So I think that the minister must come up with something more substantive and offer the workers and say, look, yes, even if it's not in the budget, it's an agreement that is being approved. Let's agree. Because I've heard their leaders say, look, we can agree to it, finalize it, but we can then agree on implementation. Back pay, issues like that, when you pay it out. But don't just go out there and say we want to retire nurses.
The government suggested 2026 implementation timeline. But the association rejected
this. Because what is then saying is that since May, we are not going to give you any back pay, which is unfair to them. Because from where they sit, the thing was agreed on. So if you are now coming to tell me we are going to start from 2020, that is completely unfair to them.
Very well. Very well. Hamza, the NDC government inherited this agreement.
I thought you would have gone to miracles before coming to me. So why do you always want to?
Let me hear from you because
I
can't comment if I haven't heard
it's
from
better
you.
for me to listen to their perspective so that I can respond.
We don't know the issue.
Provide them with the needed information
at this
so
point,
that
it is the NDC government that is facing the issue.
As for government, you always
no problem.
Although you inherited it, the nurses say that even during the transition period, they presented saying to the chief of staff and all, and so the government cannot say it was not aware. So they were hoping it would have been factored in the budget, for which reason they are demanding the implementation now.
Nana, this is a very sensitive matter.
Indeed,
because we are dealing with issues of life and death. It is therefore not surprising that even the Mortuary Workers Association have indicated that their numbers have increased in terms of the number of dead bodies they receive daily. That is worrying. I do not think that it will be exciting news for any citizen of this republic, including that of the president and his appointees. And many of us believe, including His Excellency the President, that when it comes to public sector wages, it has not been the best for some time now. It is not just in the health sector alone. Indeed, we can decide to pretend as much as we want, but many of our public sector workers, their salaries or take-home pay can actually not take them 100 or 200 meters to their homes, because the conditions of service in many of these public institutions can be disheartening. So the situation is known. And when it comes to even the health sector, it is even more worrying. Because I know that the health industry, the nurses constitute the anchor of our health delivery system.
Yeah.
And so their importance cannot be underestimated or cannot be underrated. It is not lost on government, not just the NDC government. It's previous governments, and so shall it be even with future governments. So their role and the sensitive nature of their role is not lost on this current government. It is also important for you to appreciate that we know that, as a matter of fact, that they work under terrible conditions. In most cases, even the facilities that they need to be able to carry out their work effectively, they do not have access to, largely because of their poor level of funding in many of these institutions. And they are exposed to all kinds of danger as nurses. So they deserve more. His Excellency President Mahama and his health minister and the entire government, in fact, agrees that they deserve more. It was one of our cardinal promises in the last campaign that we will work assiduously to improve the living conditions of public sector workers and, to a very large extent, workers of Ghana, for that matter. So it is a commitment that this government still holds dear. But we need to appreciate the circumstances in which we are leading this country. The economic situation that was handed over to us should not be lost on anybody. Nana, we inherited an economic situation where we're heavily indebted. In fact, our debt stood at about 721 billion. I know Miracles will agree. Quite apart from that, inflation was troubling. What it simply meant is that even the already meager salaries our public sector workers are entitled to, was the impact of these salaries were further dwindled. It was dwindled largely because of inflation. So if you could buy 5 tubers of yam with your salary, because of the high levels of inflation, you probably would have ended buying only 2. So the value of their salaries was washed down, down the drain. So we know that was the kind of economic situation we inherited. Even in the heat of that, we also inherited an unforgivable debt in the energy sector. And you know the essence of the energy sector to even the economic sustainability of our country. And this government quickly needed to rush in to resolve many of these challenges. Now, cocoa industry. Our cocoa that is supposed to rake in foreign revenue, the industry was simply run down in the last 8 years. Now, Cocoa Board is heavily indebted. Our energy sector is heavily indebted. You naturally would understand that these were the economic conditions under which President Mahama assumed the reins of government. And even just before that, we had gotten to a stage where this government, because of our economic situation, could not meet its financial obligations. That led to us being locked out of the capital markets because we had borrowed so much and failed to generate more revenue internally. So even our international creditors were unwilling to open the markets to us for us to borrow, to finance our obligations internally. This had never happened until 2022 thereabout. Since 92, we've not had this kind of experience. We had to subject many of our workers to the domestic debt exchange program, largely because our economy was in challenges. When we came into power, the World Bank, in its report 2025, somewhere January, indicated that this government needed to be careful, because if you look at the wage bill alone, it was clearly unsustainable. And so one way of dealing with your inflation and ensuring prudence was simply for us to take a holistic view of our wage bill. The IMF, in our engagement with the extended credit facility that was handed over to us, also raised a similar concern with how unsustainable our wage bill has become in the last 8 years. And I must be magnanimous here to say that I think that we didn't start having the wage bill problems under Nanado. Indeed, it preceded to a very large extent the Nanado regime. But some way, somehow, it became so intense under the last 8 years. So this is the economic situation in which we find ourselves.
Right.
Now, as a government, when we came, we started working on the budget. And so by January, the draft budget was done, presented to Parliament, seeking for an opportune time for the finance minister to go and present it to the whole country. At the time we were engaged in the negotiations to fashion out the budget of the year, the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association and their other colleagues were still in court over this agreement that they had reached in May last year with the previous administration.
Right.
So at that material moment, we did not anticipate a situation where that matter would be resolved and would have to take on that additional financial burden. In any case, even if it was anticipated, because of the economic situation that we found ourselves, remember that His Excellency President Mahama indicated that it was the time for the nation to tighten its belt, because we're going to embark on an austerity measure so that we could clean up the system and make the country more sustainable. These were the objectives. It simply meant that we're going to cut down expenditure, but government had to lead the way. That was what resulted in the reduction of the number of ministers. That is what has resulted in the reduction of the employees at the presidency, because we knew that for the Ghanaian people to be willing to make sacrifices, the government itself must indicate a commitment to ensuring that they themselves are ready
So we
to
ask
make
the nurses to make
such sacrifices. I'll get there, please. So this is the situation in which we find ourselves. We do not want a situation where we would, for political reasons, say that, look, we are going to add your demands this year. What it simply would mean is that even us as a government, we are not committed to the very blueprint we presented to government or to Parliament in our quest to reduce expenditure for this year in particular. Because we know that if we're able to do the necessary cleanup, we would have at least an appreciable economic space by next year to be able to operate within. And so many of these financial obligations will be met. Government has not said that they will not meet these financial obligations. What we are only seeking is that instead of making the implementation year 2025, and the expiry of same 2025, because by the close of this year, it would have expired, or 2026 rather. Government is simply saying that, look, let us make the implementation year next year, so that at least we would have an opportunity to contain the financial requirements of that obligation, which is in excess of 2 billion Ghana cedis. And you can imagine that is about more than 10% of the entire budgetary allocation to the health services for this year alone. We simply do not have the financial space to be able to do that. Secondly, if we proceed in opening the budget to such unexpected expenditures, we would have been breaching our conditionalities with the IMF, which these people signed. And it will threaten even the next tranche of allocation. Undoubtedly, its implications on the economy would not be lost on all of us. So this is the difficult situation in which His Excellency President Mahama and the government finds itself. It is not as if we are saying we will not honor these agreements. We will honor these agreements, but we are simply seeking for the space to be able to mop out liquidity, like we are doing now with Gold Board, trying to bring in more revenue, like we are doing in terms of our exchange rate, because the way we are handling the exchange rate, it simply means that your 1,000 Ghana cedis that couldn't buy 5 tubers of yam can now at least buy that 5 tubers of yam. So the value of money, your salary, has increased in a way. But as a government, we know that it is our responsibility to ensure that it becomes better. So this is the kind of economic situation we find ourselves. And our nurses must understand that in as much as we want to honor these obligations and improve their lives, it is practically impossible this year. So they must, for the sake of the Ghanaian people, privilege the lives of many of our people who are dying over this legitimate demand of theirs. Because we are not saying we will not honor it. We are simply asking for them to move the implementation year from this year to 2026. And like Senior indicated, you see, it is not as if when we move into next year, this current agreement with government would have been due to expire somewhere 2026. So instead of it expiring in 2026, if implemented, we are simply saying that let's start the implementation in 2026. So at least the expiry date can be moved to 2028. We extend it. That is all what we are demanding.
Very well.
So they need to understand where we are coming from as a government, and we understand that they are major partners when it comes to health delivery in this country. And His Excellency President Mahama will not take that for granted. And I know my brother agrees. That, let me land, please. I know my brother agrees that irrespective of our differences as political parties, when it comes to the health delivery architecture, there is the need for us to privilege the lives of the ordinary Ghanaian. And so I won't be surprised if he himself calls on the nurses to go back to work, largely because of the lives that are under threat.
Very well. Thank you, Hamza. Dennis.
I like you.
I'm sure he likes you too.
I won't lie to you. I won't lie to you. I won't lie to you. I like him. And I think that if he was the one handling this nurses situation, probably would not be here. Listening to him. I don't think we'll be here. Hopefully, his people are listening. And they will take a cue and manage the situation in a way. I mean, nurses going on strike is not new. Every government. Every government. We've all experienced this.
There's even more strikes to come.
The only difference here is that they are singing a different tune. Now that it's happening under them. Maybe I recall Honorable Mintakando. I have all his videos. I have, in fact, yesterday I found 11 videos of him as ranking member. When the same nurses going on strike, threatening strike, I have all his comments, all the things he said, but I will not go down the same lane. Maybe when he has time and is gone out of this heat, he should sit back and I'll forward them to him and watch himself speak. When nurses were going on strike and threatening strike between 2017 and 2024, his posture, his commentary, the things he said, what he said, and now come back and say, I was wrong, that I was doing politics. I remember when the service providers of NHIA were threatening to withdraw services. He was on, this one has nothing to do with the service providers, it's government. Government should go and find money and give to them. There's nothing to negotiate. They should pay them. Healthcare is essential. Government should stop everything and use whatever money they have to pay them. This is Minta Kando. He was ranking member. All these things council speak of. These are things that Honorable Minta Kando knows and is aware before he came to government. And you see, for me, it's the reason why anytime issues like this come up, I go and pick their voices and play. I told you last time, I have voices of every MPP minister. The list is in excess of about 70. Either audio or video or article. I have compiled. I have a whole team. We are compiling. Because I don't want to lie on you. I don't want to say something you didn't say or describe you in a manner that you are not. What he did is part of the reasons why the nurses are adamant. Because you used to be in their corner. They used to plot with you. They used to plan with you. They used to pick on your words. You were a ranking member. You were holding press conferences in front of Parliament and urging them on. They haven't changed. The same leadership. Mrs. Perpetual it is the same person, the same leader. It hasn't changed. In fact, they are very recent. When we're discussing this whole negotiation of conditions of service, it wasn't nice like that. It wasn't smooth. And they are number one proponent who who was urging them on the content or the conditions of service. It's the minister. What are we talking about? What is council talking about? That they should go and renegotiate what? The minister, the ranking member, was the one who was telling them this is good, they deserve better. That's what they deserve it. This is what that is it. You see, sometimes politics is funny.
That has not changed.
It is funny.
We still believe they deserve it.
It is funny.
Yes.
You understand? Politics is funny. Now, let me put something on record. And this is a serious aspect of it. We should refuse and resist doing politics with this matter.
Right.
So when I hear some NDC people trying to make it an MPP NDC matter, I all the commentary I made is just for me to tease him. But I sympathize with him. You understand? I sympathize with him. Listen, in May 2024, the government then and the state went into some agreement with several unions, not just the Ghana registered nurses, several unions, and it was signed. Fair Wages Salary Commission, Ministry of Health in the case of the GRNMA, the president and secretary to the nurses themselves, they all signed to this agreement. It was going to be implemented. So, again, council is completely wrong. I mean, there may be reasons and challenges.
Did you have the money then to
implement?
Yes,
because all the others. No. All the others were implemented. That is the point. And this is a very serious matter. It wasn't just the nurses.
Right.
It was all other unions. And they were all implemented. So there was money. They were all implemented. So if he says he's going to use economic reasons, it's flawed. Because even in the midst of your so-called economic mess, all the unions, their conditions of service were implemented. They have all been implemented as we speak. The only reason why the nurses wasn't implemented was because of the nurses themselves.
Yeah.
An offshoot group within the nursing association, the Psychiatrist Professionals Association also,
went to court.
Took them to court. That when you were going to negotiate, we were not there. And then they placed an injunction on it. That is the only reason why the nurses. So to date, they remain the only union that were not implemented by the MPP. All other unions were implemented. So that assertion is false. It's flawed. The MPP government was implementing it until they themselves placed the injunction. Now, this court case ran all the way till January this year. Then the court case was dispatched with. Then January, according to the nurses, which has been corroborated by the minister, they came to you, the minister, and said, we have this agreement, it's supposed to be implemented since May, but because of these issues, they were not implemented. It's time to implement it. And they make a very important point that the reason why they came to you as far back as May, even though they knew the government, January, even though they knew the government was new, was because they wanted you to prepare.
Yeah.
And I keep saying it, the minister was the ranking member. He received a transition note from the Ministry of Health. He sat in these conditions of service. He saw them when he was in opposition. He made inputs when he was in opposition. So he cannot feign ignorance. Thankfully, the Minister for Finance was the ranking member for Finance.
Yeah.
He saw these things. He cannot feign ignorance.
I don't think they're feigning ignorance.
Hold on. If the thing could have been implemented in May 2024, how can it not be implemented in 2025 when you claim the economy is doing better? The thing could have been implemented when you claim the economy was bad. But it cannot be implemented when you claim the economy is doing better.
They say it will throw their budget.
No, it is because you don't take them seriously. It is because you have prioritized other things. You have come into government, created a budget of 2.7 billion cedis. Okay, 2.7 billion cedis on government machinery. Government machinery, which used to be 327 million under the previous government you claim was a messy economy. 327 million is here. It's in the budget. In your budget, you've increased it to 2.7 billion cedis, government machinery only. Okay, and then you come and tell the nurses that they are 2 billion. It's too much. When you have already hiked your own benefit with over 1.7 billion, what are you talking about? You think they will listen to you? Let me tell you the other reason why the people are adamant. They claim that since January when they started coming to you, you never told them anything about economy and told them about financial difficulties. You said you are working on it and that you were writing letters. Yesterday I was listening to the president of the association. He said, there are days that they will even come to you and they tell them that you wrote a letter but there was an error in it, so you are correcting it. So they will postpone the meeting, come back a week later, Then you say, oh, the letter is gone, but this time the minister has traveled. You've been doing that to them till you read the budget. So you see, now what you are doing to them is to say that, oh, we forgot about you.
Yeah.
And we passed a budget.
Right.
We couldn't put it in. Forgive us. Let's get this done with. But they said, no. You telling us that implies that you were playing games with us.
Exactly.
Because you knew from January, before you read your budget, that this thing was on the table. You could have told us at that time, before you read the budget, that, Charlie, I beg you. You know we have just come. The way the situation is, if you give us some time, this budget, it will be difficult for us to accommodate it in it. A lot of people would have supported you. But when I listen to the narratives, it is clear that the nurses are right. That you were playing games with them. And they don't trust the government. They don't trust the minister.
Right.
You know why? They have even raised issues with the Minister for Finance himself. That they had a similar encounter with him in 2016.
Dennis, hold on for me. I'll come back to you. Let me.
I'm not done. He spoke for 20 minutes.
No, he didn't do 20.
How many minutes did he do?
He did somewhere in the region of 13 minutes.
Okay, I'm left with 7 minutes.
I'll come back to you. This is Breakfast Daily. Stay with us here. When we come back, we'll continue the issue regarding the nurses' strike. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us here on Breakfast Daily live on ChannelOne TV. We're having the news review segment. I'm going to go back to Dennis to wrap up his submission regarding the nurses' strike. But let me take a few of your messages and then we'll continue from there. This one says, wow, for once, Dennis has made my day with his awesome and mind-awakening analysis of our educational system. Brakufi from 2nd D. This one says, the government's handling of the nurses and midwife strike was unprofessional and has no regard for human health. It's a shame. This is Haj Ahmed from Nima. Daniel Kwesi Chi Eshan from Insawam says, our education system must really change because we are competing with the world and stop politicizing our education. Thank you. Honorable Anas NK says, Ghanaian public sector workers' eyes are now open on salaries and allowances from Mr. Politician. Trouble don't come. TUC should also wake up from their sleep and fight for their members on CBA's single spine structure for fairness. Okay. Good morning, Sir Dennis, for always doing a good job. We really appreciate. This is Wahab from Wa Upper East. And NS Gakwe from Mafikumasi in the Volta region says, I thought the current government had the knowledge and capacity to solve the challenges we are facing during this time. So what exactly is His Excellency Mahama waiting for to step in and address these issues? Being a president doesn't mean you can do everything, but leadership requires action and vision. Good morning, Dennis. I believe we have a strong chance of winning in 2028 if we remain united. The current government has clearly run out of meaningful policies to implement and has long failed the Ghanaian people. Dennis, somebody is already projecting for 2028.
I mean, you can't blame them.
Let's wrap up on the nurses matter.
You know, now why are you making me wrap up? I just started talking. Then we went on.
You have 2 minutes on this.
Quickly.
You have 2 minutes on this.
So, I mean, I think that the president needs to step in. The Minister for Health is not doing justice to the issues. Right. And then the president also needs to call some of the government functionaries.
But you know, yesterday the press conference was at the presidency.
Yeah. So he needs to call some of the government functionaries to order. So, for example, I listened to the deputy director of operations at the presidency, who is saying that we should arrest the leadership of the Ghana registered nurses. No, Gbande, Mustafa Gbande.
Mustafa Gbande.
Said we should arrest the leadership of the striking nurses. You know, and then the pro-NDC journalists, the friends to the government, Johnny Hughes and co, are calling them blockheaded that they didn't pass their WASE, and then that's why they went into nursing and all of that. It doesn't help the government. It doesn't help the government. It irritates people. If any life is lost, it's not on the nurses, it's on government. Nobody can blame the nurses for any life lost. That is why in this country there is a history of labor unions always having a last laugh and winning when they go on strikes against government. You cannot win with this approach. And the president needs to quickly invite the Minister of Health and listen to him. If possible, if the president really takes this seriously and acknowledges that people are losing their lives and that we have a crisis, invite them to the presidency. Invite the leadership of the nurses to the presidency. At least if the president is sitting in front of them and having a conversation with them, I don't see how they will say they will not listen. Yeah. But as it stands now, I see a group of people who have lost trust and confidence in, because yesterday the General Secretary was saying that, listen, we have even told the Minister for Health and Finance that Don't even implement everything in there. Start with some. Then the rest, you can have a plan around it. But it's like you don't want to even listen at all. You're talking about negotiation. There's nothing to negotiate. There is only something to implement. You understand? There is only something to implement. There is nothing to negotiate. And if they are giving you room, because I listened to them and it's clear that they have given room for some, malleability in the whole thing, that, we can pick some and implement. For example, they said we're already taking fuel allowance. So it's not a new allowance. Just that the rates, the new rates, bring that. Yeah. We are already taking uniform allowance from the 60s. It's not a new allowance, but the rates. But the new ones, maybe you can look at that. And then those that have arrears, you can stagger the arrears and all. So that's the kind of conversation they want to hear and have. But if you call me and tell me that we can now accommodate you in 2025 and I will take you to 2026, I won't listen. Especially when you have increased your government machinery budget by 2.7 billion from 327 and you give us excuses. When we say, do you know what they say? They say, because we have brought this to the government machinery. It used to be this, we brought this. It doesn't matter. Whether you have added on, whether you have brought more, whether you have absorbed, the point is that you are not cheaper. You may have a few, a lean government, but you are more expensive. That is fact. And then when you talk about we are cutting costs, you say, we have suspended or cancelled all DSTV subscription. How much is DSTV subscription? Even if you have 100 DSTV decoders at the presidency, how much is it in a year? Those are trivia. And people are watching, people are looking at it. And this thing is a major matter. The Minister of Health yesterday released a statement. And in the statement, he's listed some health facilities that is asking people to go to. It tells people that you're not willing and ready to listen to us.
I think the posturing is
but you have a media budget coming. Media budget is coming. At least call us and say, we'll capture these two in the media budget. And then we'll move the rest. Something like that. But you are calling some of them their bluff. You are talking back at them and you are accusing them that they are wicked. Some of them, you are even accusing them of political colorization to MPP. Meanwhile, these people, you supported these same people, the same leaders, to go on strike under the MPP government. You understand what I'm saying? Was it not the same people that they were supporting to go on a nationwide Galamsey across the country? Was it not the same people? So we need to call the Minister of Health to order. This is lives we are talking about. People are actually dying. That is the truth. That is the reality. 3 days ago, I had a medical emergency with a family member. I had to go and seek rescue at UGMC because you can't find, any place. So I beg him. As for the nurses, my prayer is that if they could, which I think they should be able to, they should know the government they are dealing with already. This is a government whose president in the past said that he's a dead goat. And it was also around the same time when doctors were threatening strike. And he said, listen, he has seen so much strikes that strikes don't do anything to him. So for all you know, that is that statement in practice, in motion. So we beg him. If they've tried that and the government will not listen. We were here when they were dancing to Mahama is the whole. That gives you sleep. And all of that. And then some of them, let me wrap up. And then some of the nurses said that MPP has done nothing for them and they are counting on the John Mahama government. Most of you actually, wished for it. But we beg you, now that he has come and clearly he's not willing to even do what is there, not new things, what is there already, we beg you. You've done enough. Maybe it's time for you to ignore them and come and serve us. So that when they are ready to do what they have to do, then they do it. But for now, the Minister for Health, his posture, and some utterances. I mean, this council is the only NDC person I've heard really give some. I don't know why he's not in government, honestly.
Thank you. We'll do 2 minutes each on this and then we'll move on.
Nana,
2 minutes each.
Nana, you see, I'm resisting the temptation to go political. Though my brother said that he was not going to go political, but ended up going political.
But you want political? When you were talking about a messy economy and that was political.
You see, I'm resisting the temptation.
You are not. You went political.
If you are in responding to the NPP, you are likely to be unconsciously touching raw nerves of the nurses who are genuinely out there demanding that their conditions of service be improved.
So
I'm trying to avoid that confusion, but it is important to state that it is not accurate that the government implemented the agreement in May 2024. Indeed,
Who has
of the
said
NPP,
that?
yes, of the nurses. That one was
who has said
No,
that?
the
No, I
agreement
haven't said
was
that.
made in May 2024. But the
2024, but it was not implemented.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
fine,
yes.
then fine.
But the
I
other
respect.
unions,
The other
were
unions will
implemented.
have been
Yes.
implemented,
Yeah.
but not connected to the nurses.
No.
But the point we need to understand when we talk about reckless expenditure and its dovetailing effects on our economic fundamentals and subsequently its ability to even erode the so-called improvement we seek to make in the lives of the people. Like I earlier on explained, the power of inflation. You see, we accused the last administration of being reckless in expenditure.
Yeah.
And in most cases, they were simply responding to political pressures, trying to satisfy a certain political class. As a government, we have vowed not to make decisions based on our political objectives. That is why we have decided to privilege the national interest. Otherwise, this government can also close its ears, shut its eyes, and proceed to be fulfilling any demand that is brought on our table without thinking of the economic implications
Yeah.
in the long term.
Yeah.
And that is what we are trying to resist. So the fact that you claim that you had implemented many of them, what was the effect of this implementation? Because you paid little attention to its impact on our economic fundamentals. That is why that even though you increased salaries, in truth and in actual terms, the value of these increments couldn't be felt by the
Because the
Ghanaian
cost
people.
of living also shot up.
Because the cost of living shot up as a result of inflation and other things. And that is the situation we want to avoid. So it's not just about fulfilling or increasing salaries, but we are concerned about the value of such increments. So when we talk about over expenditure, look at the budget. Your approximation was about 5.2 budget deficit. You ended the year with about 7.9%. Because of such decisions that you took, do you want us to go on that tangent again as a new government? These are questions we must begin to ask ourselves. And if we also proceed on that tangent and move the budget deficit from 7.9% to 20 or even 15%, irrespective of the increment would have subjected public sector workers to, the actual value would not be felt. And that is not the kind of legacy His Excellency President Mahama seeks to do.
Please be wrapping up.
Again, you made reference to the Office of Government Machinery Allocation. That is another falsehood. What shot up the figure, apart from the very explanation you provided of adding many of the defunct ministries? No. If you go and look at the budget, and I have it before me, it was reviewed because we realized that what shot up the figure to the 2.7 billion he spoke about was largely because of the national security budgetary allocation. If you look at the appropriations bill, you would see clearly, I think under not even the budget for 2025, you will see clearly under page 149 that allocation has been moved to about 362 million. Office of Government Machinery compensation. Because the national security budget has now been moved
out of it. Okay.
to the Ministry of Interior. So it's not more part of it. And that was what accounted for that ballooning. And many other ministries that were defunct, that they decided to run. Additional cost to the government that we added. But even in the midst of that, now moving national security to Ministry of Interior, we are dealing with less. That is about 362 million Ghana cedis. So there is an improvement in that regard. And so that confusion needed to be settled. Again, you see, Nana.
And this is the final one.
Yes, Nana. It is true that this is a very sensitive issue.
Yeah.
And we should not play politics with it. But, my brother, it is very difficult from where I sit to accuse the NDC administration of playing politics with the issues in the past. The difference here is that we've always been consistent, even including the Honorable Minister Akando, that look, there's the need for us to improve the conditions of service of our health workers. That has not changed. That has not changed. So if you saw leading members of the NDC then calling for an improvement, it is not as if today we are saying that they don't deserve it. We are simply saying that because of what you handed over to us, it is practically impossible for us to capture that now, and we are willing to do so next year and extend the expiry period.
But you see, Hamza, what they had is what they handed to you. So if then you thought it was prudent to implement, why not now?
No, you see, that is the mistake you are making. Even at the time we are calling for the implementation, we are talking about realignment of government expenditure. We questioned the reckless decision of government to sink about $51 million of the taxpayers' money in building or in digging the most expensive hole in the world.
Right.
Remember, we questioned the conduct of the government in the PDS engagement, where Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia decided to change a bank guarantee to an insurance guarantee, and a condition precedent to a condition subsequent. That led to the government of Ghana losing in excess of $2 billion. These were the expenditures we questioned, and said that if the government was able to handle these expenditures prudently and realign its expenditure, it should be in a position to honor many of these obligations. So there's the need for him to contextualize it. This government is not engaged in such reckless expenditure like they did.
Right.
And that is why we can understand the frustration of the Ghanaian people, especially the nurses. And if you are making references to His Excellency President Mahama not being concerned about demonstrations, that again is another falsehood. Because everybody knows his posture and how humane His Excellency President Mahama is.
Right.
This is a leader who will look into your eyes and tell you that there are challenges, and so we must all bear the challenges together. And if the president is in a position to honor your demands, be rest assured that President Mahama will do so without any hesitation.
Thank you.
But my appeal, finally, to our brothers and sisters, especially in the health fraternity, they need to understand that even if at the end of the day government finds an amicable solution around the matter, many of the lives that we are losing, we will not be able to get them back. Right. So for the sake of our country, for the sake of many of our colleagues and compatriots, they must at this stage reason with us so that we can continue to save lives. So that in the future, if these agreements are eventually implemented, they themselves will not look back and feel so terrible because of the lives that would have been lost at the time they are beginning to enjoy the very agreement that they are putting pressure on government to implement now. So it is in our interest for them to be measured at this critical point. I understand government. We are not saying we don't implement it, but for the sake of our the lives being lost, they need to go
your
back.
Final thoughts on the nurses strike.
Now, beyond the nurses strike, I think that it is important that as governments, they begin to look at the whole issue of productivity as a nation, from all our public sector institutions. What is the level of productivity coming out of this? Because the issue of money is always an issue of product. If we are able to increase productivity, then the issue of wages, salaries, and issues like that should not be a big problem. So I think that rather than every time seeking to deal with one unit when they go on strike, we should be looking consistently at the issues of productivity. Do we have enough nurses in the public sector? If we don't, what is the problem? Even if we have enough, are they productive? What is the level of care given to patients? We should begin to measure these things so that we can actually make the system more productive. So we should look at all public sector institutions and look at the issue of productivity more closely, because that is the way we can generate income to sustainably pay them what they deserve. Again, governments need to be sincere. Our politicians need to be sincere, because the issue around this whole strike is an issue of trust. You say one thing and tomorrow do something different. So politicians need to build, they should realize that the value of trust has gone down completely. Look, there's a research report by the corruption agencies, that has been put out. And it says corruption at the presidency, for instance, has increased from 13 to about 50-something%. Yes, at the presidency itself has increased. So these are
the period within which this research, this study
I think between 2013 to about 2024. That's the period the research covers. I think I'll look for it and share. But these are worrying trends. Indeed. So the issue here is about trust. How can we increase productivity from these various sectors. We put up hospitals, but patient care is still not there. So I think the minister, in trying to resolve this challenge, needs to sit down and be more open with the nurses and put things to them because they are reasonable people. Let's not behave as if they are not reasonable people.
Yeah.
We sit down with them and say, look, this is the situation, and be honest. The dishonesty is what is impacting the negotiations. And I think Labour Commission itself, we need to begin to question the efficiency of the Labour Commission itself in resolving issues. Why do they always seem to be on the side of government, the employer, and not resolving issues timely?
Right.
So the Labour Commission itself needs to be closely looked at, and we need to begin to ask questions of that commission and its conduct. So for me, the way forward is not only to try and deal with the current situation, but it's also for us to look at the issue of general productivity within the public sector. Because governments complain about inefficiency, and yet when they come, it becomes an avenue for them to push their party members onto the payroll. And then they come back and complain about the wage bill.
Yeah.
Because look, seriously, if we look at inefficiencies, the inefficiencies within our ministries and government are just too much. There are people sitting there who do very little, and yet every month they are taking salaries.
Very well.
So we need to look at the larger issue of productivity more closely, and then we can overcome these issues.
Very well. Dennis, final take.
This government is wild.
Is it?
The government is wild. I am yet to see any government as ruthless, wild, nonchalant, that's in French, as this government is. I mean, how on earth is this government still holding on to their position where they've been from day one? After all the number of people who are dead and not willing to even move an inch from where they stand. Because I keep listening to them, it's like, well, nurses, you have to accept the 2026 budget, otherwise there's nothing else we can do for you. That's the summary of it. And I admire them.
You do?
I wish my government was this bold and confident to treat Ghanaians like this. To be very honest with you, I admire their tenacity. Because, I mean, for almost a week or two, what have they said? Have you heard them make a single move from where they've been standing from day one? In fact, the nurses have amended their positions even more. The government is still standing where they are. Then, they gaslight us by telling us they keep telling us all the things. NDC still keep thinking that they've brought gold onto the street of Ghana to date. And whenever you bring it, the economy, look at the things we've done. To the extent that he's connecting dollar drop to yam. Yeji. Do they transact yam with dollars? Yeji.
Say this on
Please. I beg you.
Okay, I'm quiet.
In Ghana,
don't say that on this.
if Yeji yam is going to have a price change drop, it's the fool. It is the fool. What good is it when the dollar comes down and then the fuel comes down and then you come and slap 50% on the
But it
other?
was just a pause.
Oh, I bet.
Increase in
I am.
wages to
Yam prices are still high. Cement prices have increased by over 45 cedis. Iron rod prices are still high. Tomatoes that used to sell for 10 cedis that they were complaining, one is selling for 10 cedis. So which price reduction is he talking about?
You want me to
Only.
respond to that?
No. Why? When you were speaking, you were even pointing me. You were even pointing at me and calling me. I didn't speak. I beg you. I am only saying that you have done nothing except to actually see the artificial appreciation of the cedi.
Oh, you think it's that?
It is, but the reason why you are not seeing the reduction, the drop of the cedi affecting prices on the street is because it's artificial. I keep telling you that the only prices that have dropped in this country is the glamour stores. The Laboni cantonment, the Spinters, those places that they are selling the sofas for 60,000, they are the ones that have come down. Tell me, have you heard anything, any regular thing that people are buying on the shelves of Ghana that have come down? Nothing. So that is the truth. That is the reality.
Come down.
But they've just slapped 50% on a gallon.
Yeah,
Is it not?
From 16
One
down
plan.
to
No. Why are you doing that? Why are you supporting NDC
I am
lies?
not supporting anyone.
No, they took fuel from 14 cities 99. So what are you talking about 16?
That's not true.
No, but that is true. It's here. Engineer, look at it. It's
Even
here.
if it's to 12.
It is not if. It is not if. The fact are what we are discussing. It's not
And
if.
it's the fact not that at a point we were buying fuel for even
Is
more
it
than
not at a
17.
point? Is the fact not? Is it not a fact? There's a point we're buying for at 11 cities. Why are you talking about
So
at a
these
point?
are all facts.
No,
So
don't.
why
No, Nana, please. Let me come back to my argument. Don't do that. it is a fact that at a point, under the MPP government, fuel was selling for 9 cedis.
And it's also a fact that at a point under the MPP, fuel was around 70.
Why are you doing this? The government is telling you that they've reduced your fuel to 12 cedis. Don't do that to your viewers. Hold on. And let me take you on, because nobody asked you to do that.
Have they not reduced?
No, what you are saying is false. You are saying that they reduced fuel from 16.
Very well. Granted, it's the 16 that.
So don't go into. It's not debatable.
12?
They took it from 14 to 12, and they've added 1.
Is that still not a 1 cedi?
No. That you didn't listen to my point, and you attempted to distort the fact.
No,
don't do that. No. You did it. You did it. You did
Let's
it.
be clear on that.
But you said 16.
Very well.
Are you withdrawing that?
I withdraw the 16.
Exactly. Then let me make my point.
You don't even have to withdraw.
Then let me make my point.
But he says I shouldn't interrupt.
No, he's here. This is Star Oil. This is Guel. Is it not Guel? Is it not well? 14.99.
Well.
Star was 14.75.
And now it's what?
12.75. The point I am making is that, so don't come and make it look like you brought gold onto our streets. For which reason you can do whatever you want to do to us. Because what they keep saying is that, listen, we've made Ghana the best. Allow us to strangulate you. Allow us to press your neck. We can suffocate you. Don't talk. And that is the problem I have with the NDC. And all of us need to take note, because you see, I don't like it when they have this nurses debate in this manner. So the nurses should do what? You, since you came to office, you've appointed political appointees as corporate communications directors to almost every government agencies. When there are public officers there who are already responsible for that, all of them are they not bedding to the public purse?
Right.
And you are telling us not to speak. Go and count. Every ministry, every agency, they've appointed their political people to those places. Some of them are your media friends who have been moved from their media houses because they were doing some skewed news to them, of course, and then sent them which merit, and then send them to these places to go and work. The point I'm making is that
we need to go now.
Beg them, go on your knees. Beg them, like we are all supporting you. They are always spoiling the case for us.
So they need to beg them.
I am here begging on your behalf, and you are spoiling the thing.
You are not begging.
I am here begging on you. You cannot.
You see, are you the moderator? No, but that will be unfair.
Our time is up. No. Hamza, our time is up. Unfortunately, we need to go. Engineer, thank you. Dennis, thank you. Hamza, thank you. This has been the news review segment. Thank you so much. Breakfast Daily continues after this.
We have not done that.